One rode out of the steppes of Central Asia and made the Roman Empire pay him tribute for the right to keep existing. The other was Roman by birth and conquered everything from the English Channel to the Egyptian desert. One was called the Scourge of God. The other became a god himself. Both rewrote the meaning of empire. Both died at the same age. Only one of them got to write history. Tonight, Attila the Hun and Gaius Julius Caesar, two of the most feared warlords in classical history. Two completely different empires. One question: who was truly more dangerous? Welcome back to Evil versus Evil, Monsters of History. This is episode 19. Born somewhere on the Great Hungarian Plain, in the year 406 of the Common Era, the boy who would become Attila the Hun came into the world as the son of Munzuk, a king of the Hunnic Confederation. The Huns were a nomadic horse people who had ridden out of the Asian steppes a generation earlier, fleeing some pressure historians still cannot identify, and had settled into the rich grasslands east of the Roman frontier. They were short, broad, terrifying riders who could shoot arrows from horseback in all directions while moving at full gallop. Roman observers wrote that the Huns lived on horseback. They ate on horseback. They held councils on horseback. They were, the Romans reported, two-legged animals. Attila grew up speaking Hunnish, Gothic, and Latin. He was educated in Roman customs as a child, when he was sent as a hostage to the imperial court in Ravenna, a common diplomatic practice of the time. He learned how the Romans thought. He learned how their army fought. He learned, most importantly, how their bureaucracy could be exploited. When he and his brother Bleda inherited the Hunnic throne in 434, Attila already knew exactly how to extract gold from Constantinople. For the next 11 years, he and Bleda jointly demanded ever larger tribute payments from the Eastern Roman Empire in exchange for not invading the Balkans. They raised the price every year. In 445, Attila murdered his brother and took sole control of the Hunnic Empire. He was 39 years old. What followed was a decade of the most successful extortion campaign in human history. He invaded the Balkans repeatedly. He sacked dozens of Roman cities, including Belgrade, Sofia, Naissus, and Plovdiv. He drove all the way to the gates of Constantinople, took every settlement outside the city walls, and forced the Eastern Roman Emperor to triple his annual tribute. He extracted, over the course of his rule, an estimated tens of millions of pounds of gold from the Roman state, more than any single ruler in classical history. In 451, he turned west, with an army that some chronicles estimate at over 100,000 horsemen, drawn from across the Hunnic Empire and its subject tribes. He invaded Gaul. He sacked Reims, Metz, Trier, and Troyes. He was finally stopped at the Battle of the Catalonian Plains by an unlikely alliance of Romans and Visigoths under the Roman general Aetius. It was one of the few defeats of his career, and the most bloody battle in late antiquity. Contemporary sources claimed 160,000 died in a single day. The next year, in 452, Attila invaded Italy. He sacked Aquileia, Padua, Verona, and Milan. Refugees fled to the lagoons of the Adriatic and founded what would later become the city of Venice. Pope Leo I, in one of the most legendary diplomatic encounters in history, rode out to meet Attila near the Mincio River and somehow persuaded him to turn back. Historians have debated for 1,500 years what Leo actually said. Attila simply turned his horse and went home. He died on his own wedding night in 453, marrying his latest bride, a young Germanic woman named Ildiko. He was found dead in bed the next morning, drowned in his own blood from a burst nasal artery. He was 47 years old. The Hunnic Empire collapsed within a decade of his death. That was Attila, the horseman who made Rome itself pay him to leave it alone. Born in the Subura district of Rome, in the year 100 before the Common Era, Gaius Julius Caesar entered the world as the son of an old but politically minor patrician family that claimed descent from the goddess Venus. The Julii had pedigree but no recent power. His father was a praetor who died suddenly when Caesar was 16. His mother, Aurelia, was a fierce, intelligent matron who shaped him. He inherited a Rome that was tearing itself apart. The dictator Sulla had recently massacred his political enemies. Caesar, as the nephew of Sulla, old rival Marius, was on the proscription lists at 19. He fled the city. He spent his early adulthood in Asia Minor, soldiering, building political contacts, and famously being captured by Cilician pirates. He told them, as they held him for ransom, that he would return after his release and crucify them all. They laughed. He raised a navy after his release, hunted them down, and crucified them all. He was 25 years old. He climbed the Roman political ladder one office at a time. Quaestor, aedile, praetor, consul in 59 BC at the legal minimum age of 40. He formed the first triumvirate with Pompey and Crassus, the three richest and most powerful men in the Republic. And in 58 BC, he took the proconsulship of Gaul. What followed was the Gallic Wars, the most ruthlessly efficient war of conquest in classical antiquity. Over 8 years, Caesar's legions subdued every Celtic tribe in modern France, Belgium, Switzerland, and parts of the Netherlands. By his own count, written down with strange pride in his commentaries on the Gallic War, he killed 1 million Gauls and enslaved 1 million more. The entire population of Gaul, by some modern estimates, dropped by a third. He invaded Britain twice. He crossed the Rhine twice. He fundamentally redrew the map of Western Europe. In 49 BC, after his political enemies in Rome attempted to strip him of his legions, Caesar crossed the Rubicon River with 1 legion and started a civil war. The next 4 years saw him chase his former ally Pompey across the Mediterranean, defeat him at Pharsalus, follow him to Egypt where Pompey had already been murdered, sleep with Cleopatra, install her as Queen of Egypt, defeat the King of Pontus in a campaign so quick he summarized it with 3 words, Veni Vidi Vici, and crush the last Republican armies in North Africa and Spain. He returned to Rome and made himself dictator for life. He reformed the calendar, reorganized the Senate, redistributed public land, and began planning a massive military campaign against Parthia. He named months after himself and Augustus. He had himself declared a god in his own lifetime, a claim Rome had never tolerated before. On the Ides of March, the 15th of March in 44 BC, 60 Roman senators, including his closest friend Marcus Brutus, surrounded him at the foot of the statue of Pompey and stabbed him 23 times. He died at the age of 55. But unlike Attila, Caesar's death did not end his empire. It accelerated it. His adopted nephew Octavian, who would later be called Augustus, became the first emperor of Rome and inaugurated a political order that would dominate the Mediterranean world for the next 500 years. The Roman Empire is, in many practical senses, the empire that Caesar prepared and that his heirs collected. That was Julius Caesar, the general who killed Gaul and gave Rome its emperors. Now let us put these 2 warlords side by side. Category 1, body count. Attila's invasions killed somewhere between 100,000 and 300,000 people across Roman and barbarian territories. Caesar's Gallic Wars alone killed an estimated 1 million people and enslaved another million. His subsequent civil wars killed hundreds of thousands more. The edge is Caesar, by an order of magnitude. Category 2, military reach. Attila's empire stretched from the Rhine to the Aral Sea at its peak. Caesar conquered Gaul, invaded Britain, defeated Pompey across 3 continents, and made Egypt a client kingdom. The edge in pure geographic reach is Caesar. Category 3, tactical brilliance. Attila relied on the mobility of his horse archers and the terror of his reputation. He was a brilliant raider, but lost the one major pitched battle of his career at the Catalonian plains. Caesar fought roughly 20 major battles across his career and won nearly all of them, often against larger, better supplied opponents. The edge is Caesar, Category 4. Long-term institutional legacy. Attila's empire dissolved within a decade of his death, leaving almost no political institutions behind. Caesar's heirs founded an empire that lasted 5 centuries in the West and another 1,000 years in the East. His name became the word for emperor in dozens of languages. Tsar, Kaiser, Tsar. The edge, by a continent, is Caesar. Category 5. Personal reputation and legend. Attila became the proverbial barbarian. His name still means destroyer. Caesar became the proverbial dictator. His name still means king. Both are universally known. The edge in personal reach across languages is Caesar, narrowly. So the categories split 5-0 in favor of Caesar. But categories do not capture everything. Here is the wild card. What if Attila had been born inside the Roman Empire? Given the same skills, the same charisma, and the same instincts applied to the Roman political and military system, Attila would not have been a barbarian warlord. He would have been a Caesar. He would have raised legions in the provinces, marched on Rome, and possibly founded his own imperial dynasty. Now imagine Caesar born on the steppe. No Latin literature, no Senate to manipulate, no 2,000 years of Roman military tradition behind him. He might have been a competent Hunnish king. He could not have built what he built without the Roman state to seize. The verdict, by the categories, Julius Caesar wins. He killed more, ruled more, and built more than Attila ever could. He literally rewrote European history. He is one of perhaps 3 or 4 individual humans whose lives genuinely altered the long-term course of civilization. But here is the part that should disturb you. Caesar is taught in schools as a founding father of Western civilization. His memoirs of slaughtering 1 million Gauls are read by Latin students as elegant examples of prose. Attila, who killed a fraction of what Caesar killed, is taught as the destroyer who tried to end civilization. The conqueror who won was civilized. The conqueror who lost was a barbarian. History, as Caesar himself proved, is written by the survivors. Attila was the scourge. Caesar was the architect. The winner is Caesar. The one Europe still imagines coming over the hill in nightmares. Attila. Next episode, the season finale. Adolf Hitler versus Joseph Stalin. The 2 leaders responsible for more deaths than anyone in the 20th century. 2 completely different ideologies. One question: who was truly the most dangerous human being who has ever lived?